What's up, nerds? It's McKinley, and today I am at home for the first time in a while filming. Well, not true. My green couch. That's at home too, but in my own room. I've got a little corner here that I can film in for now. I'm trying to reorganize my bookshelf so I can film in front of it, but we'll see how that goes. But this is my wrap up for books 46 through 50. I'm so far behind on posting my wrap ups, which is why I've been posting 3 videos a week the past 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. This is going up like 8 days after I film it, so we'll see. We'll see how long I've been doing 3 videos a week, but yeah. Anywho, I obviously read 5 books, and none of them are 5 stars. Just a warning. Here we go. Hopefully I'll remember to tell you what reading challenges they met, because I have been forgetting a lot lately. So, yeah. But just real quick, I have decided to stop doing the Queer 52 challenge. Not because I don't want to read queer books. It's because I don't really want to read those. I've been reading a lot of LGBT plus books, and none of them are counting towards that. And I was looking through the list the other day, and there's just like a few of them I really just have no desire to read, and I don't want to force myself to read queer books that I'm not going to like. So I'm going to just challenge myself to read 52 queer books, even if they're not on that list. And now, the books. My least favorite book of the week, or moment, the batch, was Poems from Planet P by Jennifer M. Fulford. These are allegedly poems inspired by Portland, Oregon, and I wanted to read it for 2 reasons. Because it met a challenge on the Read Harder challenge, but also I really, really want to go to Portland, and I thought this would maybe make me want to go there more. It did not. Not because it made Portland seem bad. These just weren't for me. I did not connect with any of these poems. It was kind of like a struggle to even get through it, and it's painfully short. It's like 33 pages. I wanted to quit, and that says a lot, but I did finish. I'm giving it 1 star. I did not rate it on Goodreads because I was the only rating, and just because I didn't connect with a book, I don't feel like it's necessarily bad. It just wasn't for me, and I don't want her only rating to be 1 star just because I couldn't connect with any of the poetry. So, you know, poetry is very subjective. So I'm sure someone somewhere will connect with this. I was just not that somebody. And the challenge it met was for the Read Harder Book Riot Challenge. It counted as a book published by a micropress. My only 2-star book was Prom Kings and Drama Queens by Dorian Cerrone. I mentioned this in a library haul. I got it for the Read Harder Challenge as well because it takes place in Fort Lauderdale, which is within 100 miles from my house. It is about a girl who really wants to go out with the boy next door, and they end up, like, literally everything that happens in this book is on the description. Like, it's in the description. Everything. Like, if you read the description, you basically have read this book. It's seriously short. So, in the description, it says she ends up kissing the boy next door, and that happens well over halfway through the book. So, honestly, I would skip this one. I gave it 2 stars because, like, it was a fast read. I didn't hate it. It was just, you know, whatever. I'm not going to remember this book next week. It is what it is. But it did complete the Book Riot Challenge for within 100 miles of my house. I probably wouldn't have read it if it hadn't met that challenge, to be completely honest. My only 3-star read was Starflight by Melissa Landers. I think every book I have on this list has a different rating. So, yeah. This is a sci-fi book about a girl who is a felon, and she's trying to get a ride on a spaceship as an indentured servant, and this boy Dorian hires her. They were classmates or something, and everything kind of takes off from there. People compare it to Firefly, and while I see the comparison, Firefly is better. I don't really like the romance. It's not problematic or anything. It's just not, I didn't buy into it at all. It's a fun read. I'm going to continue with the series, but I wouldn't call it anything special. I honestly would have liked it more without the romance. I think the second one's going to be better because the gang of misfits really comes to its peak towards the end of this book. So I think the second one is going to be better. and I'm excited to read that one. This one is just like a lot of laying the grounds, I think, for the next one. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series, but I do love this cover. And I love the cover for the second one. And I am meeting her at a Polycon, so that's why I picked this one up. It did not count for any of my reading challenges. But if you liked Firefly, I think you might like this. But maybe not. It's definitely not as witty as Firefly, but it's in the same vein as Firefly is the best way I can say. But I gave this obviously 3 stars, which I already said. My only 3.5-star book was The Chaos of Longing, which is another book of poetry, and this is by K.Y. Robinson. And this is all about like the first section is kind of her, like, she got raped, and the second section is her, like, in love with a guy. I don't think it's the guy who raped her. This third section is her kind of, like, not being with him anymore, and how she's still crazy in love with him. And then the fourth section is her moving on and getting over it. And the first 55 pages, which is the first 2 sections, I was not a fan of, but you can see this line of demarcation. I loved everything past this point, which is like, I would give this section 5 stars, and I would give this section like 2 stars, and that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. I related so much to the last 2 sections of this book. Like, if I had had these poems when I was with my ex, like, I may have figured it out sooner what an idiot I was being. But yeah, I think if you've ever lost a love, you can probably really relate to these last 2. If you've ever had unrequited love, for sure you can relate to these last 2 sections. And it's pretty straightforward poetry, which is my favorite kind of poetry. I don't like a lot of symbolism in my poetry. I just like to, you know, enjoy the poems and understand them and be done. So I'm actually really glad that I picked this up. And I almost DNF'd it, and I'm really, really glad I didn't, because the last 2 sections are just totally worth it. If you pick this up and you're struggling, my favorite book that I read in this batch of books was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and this is a classic novel, obviously. I picked this up because it was published between 1900 and 1950, which is one of the challenges on the Read Harder Book Riot Challenge. So, yeah, if you don't know what this is about, I don't know where you've been, but her parents die, Mary Lennox's parents die, and she is sent to live with her uncle that she's never known. She lived in India, now she lives in England with her uncle, and he's got a hunchback, and he's never gotten over the death of his wife, who is also the mother of his son, who he never really visits or sees. They've locked him away in a room, and she ends up befriending him and finding the dead mother / wife's secret garden. I grew up on this book and the musical. I never saw the musical, but my mom listened to the soundtrack all the time, so like I was pretty familiar with the story, and I gotta say it kind of lived up to it. I really enjoyed this book just as much as I enjoyed the music from the musical and the movie that I grew up watching. So I think if you liked that movie, I don't remember, I think it came out in the early 90s. If you like that movie, I think you'd probably like this original book if you haven't read it yet. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook because I basically only listen to audiobooks apparently. So yeah, I highly recommend, especially if you liked that movie. It's just a fun read, and it stays pretty true, or the movie stayed pretty true to the book. But for reading challenges, this obviously counted as a book published between 1900 and 1950 on the Book Riot Reading Challenge. And I also counted it, and this is kind of cheating, but I don't care. For Pop Sugar, I counted it as a book I loved as a child. Now, even though I hadn't read the book as a child, I did grow up on the movie. And honestly, I did not read that much as a child. So while it's a stretch, I'm kind of going with it. Like, the books I read as a child were Babysitter's Club and Sideways Stories from Wayside School, and I really don't want to read those, so there we go. And those are all the books that I read this batch. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram, become my friend on Goodreads, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!